Well, first of all, let me say that the message to people is that they should plan and prepare and assess their own particular situation. They shouldn't panic. I mean, we are not saying there will be no agreement. We are saying no agreement is a possibility, and having an agreement is another possibility. So we have to prepare as a government for both eventualities. And this is the no-deal work that we've been doing now for a number of years. The booklet identifies a number of specific areas. The movement of persons is one of them. As you know, if there is a no negotiated outcome, it would mean the full application of the Schengen border code at the frontier. That would mean make it more cumbersome, more time consuming. It would mean passport stamping. It would mean potential questioning by guards as to where you're going, why you're going, and do you have enough money to sustain yourself in the Schengen area. That's what happens now at all the different external control points of the European Union or of the Schengen area. So that is what it would mean. And that is an area which the government, as you say, has identified as being the single most important area, that is to say, the movement of persons.
You say that in the event of a no negotiated outcome, you would impose similar frontier restrictions to those imposed by Spain. What do you expect these to be?
Well, I wouldn't call this restrictions. What we are saying is that the European Union, Spain is obliged then to implement in full the Schengen border code. The government has already made it clear on several occasions that it would operate on the principle of reciprocity. So it would mean that we would also have to check passports or stamp passports or check the identity of persons crossing the border. We are no longer in the European Union. The transition period has come to an end, and that is what it means not to be in the club, sadly. The government, as you know, is looking into possible mitigation measures. One of those is the expansion of the pedestrian entry point at the border, potentially, the introduction of a number of e-gates to record the crossings in a digital way, which would be quicker, which would allow 10 or 12 people to cross at the same time. So there are measures we can take to mitigate them. You know, the Spaniards have already installed a number of e-gates on their side of the border in the eventuality that there is no agreement. If there is an agreement, then there's no need to use the e-gates. But bear in mind that even Schengen has sometimes been suspended. You recall the terrorist attacks in France, for example, the immigration problem they had with people coming over from through Eastern Europe. And at those points, Schengen was actually suspended and controls needed to be reintroduced. So I think the e-gates would be a good investment, not just for now, but also potentially for any changes which might come in the future. And that is one way in which we can mitigate the movement of persons.
You're advising employees to work out shift patterns with their employers so they can avoid peak times for entering Gibraltar. What sorts of delays does the government anticipate?
Well, it's not necessarily that we anticipate that there will be delays. I mean, there are ways also in which the Spanish and the European Union side can increase the number of control points, for example, and allow the more fluid entry and exit of people, which you may see there are 12 e-gates which work in a fluid kind of way. So from our perspective, what we are telling the business community, and we've had very detailed briefings with the Federation of Small Businesses, with the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the Online Betting and Gaming Association, and the Finance Centre Council on no deal. We've explained to them the whole raft of measures that the government is taking. We've also explained there are some areas where we simply cannot mitigate, where the new situation, which unfortunately we won't like, will simply be the consequence of having left the European Union and not having secured a treaty, because for reasons which are well known. We all know what our red lines are, and we are not going to cross those red lines, but certainly between the two sets of red lines, if you like, there is space in which both sides can come to a satisfactory agreement. That space is reflected in the detail of the New Year's Eve agreement, and that is the basis of the treaty we would like to see. But once again, if it's not possible to conclude a treaty, then this is a territory we would find ourselves in.